Okay. Takže it was on the stomach and the chest lying, neck of the guitar directed down. Now we raise the guitar and put the lower edge of it on the root of the nose and bend one knee, and the neck of the guitar is on the horizontally resting lower calf of, in my case, left leg. Right knee is bending, and the left hand supports the guitar, and the right is resting on it from above and hitting the strings from above. Next position. The guitar must not be tuned according to some concert or the Pythagorean mathematical patterns. It has to be tuned according to your body, your bones, the shape of your bones, the length of your chin and breastbone, and shape of your skull, and rhythm of your heart, and the quality of your blood. The red blood cells must shiver with ecstasy. So all the cognitive and symphonic and kind of institutional music was destroyed by, the composers who got blind and deaf by composing enormous, complicated symphonies and writing it all down, and musicians were sitting in orchestras and concentrating on the lines and the tempo and the command of the composer. Composer is the warrior of those, imperialistic kind. He should become a child. The composer should go mad and roll on the stage and he should not be, the commanding officer. Ecstatic should he be. But the ecstasy in European context, especially in the Romantic period, where the age of reason, the 18th century, was recognized by creative souls as life, inimical, as danger to life, because you will freeze in the conceptual worlds and in the mathematical formulas and in the reasonable categories of Kant. So there was a defense of the Romantics, but nevertheless, the European soul can accept ecstasy only in the frame of some, institutional frame, so that it does not become truly living. Like going to an orchestra symphony in the evening into an opera house, you get dressed, you drive a car, or you are being driven there, and you show your money and positions and your woman to the audience, and you everybody is behaving properly, and then one can have the short ecstasy of emotion when the music is unusual, effective, but the frame must remain. The soldiers are the musicians, the emperor, the Caesar is the director, and the viewers are in row like in a church. They have to behave. They do not have, the freedom to stand up and dance like in a disco. It became later with the rock music. It was freedom. But also, this was the reception of music. The creation of music shall also become free and Dionysian. Woo! And since Dionysus, if he is true, is always individual, in the individual body and in the individual soul. He is not a god that is standing. We are phenomenologists. We do not believe in the existence of the pantheon of the Greeks like it was ontological now. These are all myths and fairy tales, but they are true. They all represent archetypes of our own soul and body potential. So the Dionysian ecstasy will always be individual, because you have an individual body. It is a fruit of thousands of years of your tribe, family, geographical location, and you have an individual soul, which is the fruit of the education, culture, historical background. So if you open it all to a flow, to a free merging of motives, melodies, rhythms, visions, pictures, body perceptions, memories, and if it flows in such a free way that it can expand the soul field, and the soul field, your individual soul field, merges with the Akashic records, with the supra-individual. And if you express it or support it with string vibration, then it will also be individual, and you do not have to wait for evaluation of the others. If it makes you strong and healthy and creative and if emotions arise in you that you are truly expanding your potential into a creative distance of the unknown. And the criteria of this is very much that you are yourself. I mean, your ego is still in the background. It is dissolving, and it is reuniting permanently, because we are at the end of the European ego history, so the ego is very strong. And even it is dissolved in the childish ecstasy and in the vibrations of the guitar. It is permanently reconfiguring. It is our special European ability. The Vedanta and Chinese and Indian and mystics and can either fully disappear into the Brahma, they really lose the ego, or they become extremely controlled. They don't have this kind of how do we describe it? How do we explain it? This richness of the European culture, which always oscillates between the Apollonian and the Dionysian pose, ecstasy and control of ecstasy. Too much control, it's a yin and yang. Too much control induces ecstasy, and too much ecstasy induces again control. But both of them in the interest of harmony, of health, of the body and soul. And this is very much individual in every one of you. So don't wait for gratification or admiration or of the others. They firstly will be always envious and refuting, because you have shown to them that you are able to be alone and create yourself. It could be a contribution of the European soul to the development of the future mankind. This is our potential. The ripe golden fruit of European history, of the oscillating pendulum between Dionysian and Apollonian cultures or cultural epochs. We can never compete with the Chinese in kind of production of material stuff. They are the hive. They are billion of industrious and kind of Confucian mentality, family and business oriented, hive of producers. They are not ecstatic individuals as we are. So we must get them to admire this. Europe should be so proud and so self-aware of its tradition that we would easily say, okay, you can kill us all with your 6,000 Russians and 6,000 and Americans and 6,000 atomic warheads. Frankreich, the little Napoleon Macron has 300 and British have some 200. But it's nothing. And above all, Americans and the Russians have no intention of destroying Europe. No. We should be so wise and proud that we say, fuck you all. We are going to celebrate our soul depth and creativity and the oscillation between Dionysian and Apollonian pole, and we have a beautiful, if you have once traveled across the Alps to Italy and then to Sicily, slowly writing poetry and lying on the beaches with your beautiful muse, you will touch the true heritage of Europe. Americans shall admire it because they have had it in those individuals, but they have stained their hands with the blood of the Aborigines. They have killed all the Red Indians. They run away from Europe, the free thinkers. And then they slip down to commercial life. All high feelings and emotions, creativity must be profitable, and that's a mistake. It cannot be. Our European heritage, our pride should be in this throwing away all the advantages, living in the pure ecstasy of the phenomena, like Mozart. Mozart was one of those who was really top European, and very much inspired and childish, free, until death, and also tragic. Okay, we continue our journey through our body. We put the guitar vertical on the chest bone, breastbone. We get from the depth of our ribs and heart and lungs we get the, what do we get? The temples of Piranesi, our kind of Piranesi, a painter. He must have had this soul that was so rich and so deep, and yet the organizing power of geometry was, pushed on that. So this great architecture has been painted, the kind of symbols of great power. Nietzsche also says architecture is the strongest expression of the will to power. It is simply standing, like the pyramids, like the huge buildings of European governments and parliaments. They stand. This is what the politicians should do. They should go into their solid, huge buildings, temple-like, and then they should lie down and vibrate with their guitars and absorb the solidity and the hugeness, the massive stone blocks, and like that, stand on the fundaments of European architecture, Greek and Baroque, Roman, Gothic, naturally, we must not forget Gothic. All of them strive to some space expansion of the soul field by giving the soul a kind of solid stone space to expand, to fill it, and then the organs come, organ music. Who of you has been trembling like a leaf under the impact of strong organ music, kneeling on the solid stones, marble stone in the church, like I did in the church of the Holy Rose on the Prague Castle in 1973, when from the great loudspeakers the rock opera Jesus Christ Superstar was shattering the walls, These were ecstasies of the 70s, pure. And we move down to lower part of the ribs. We found that this string is, if you find something, some disharmony, it should be higher here. You do it, no? Okay, you follow the commands of your body. Okay, how does it taste now? Because the stomach is tasting it, no? Then you go to the pelvis, down. Now navel, the stomach, the navel. Hospitals, music will be introduced in the new Atlantis now when the new Argonauts schools spread, and then there will be the whole area, build concert halls and rehabilitation clinics and farms on the whole coast of southern Crete for the winter. Healing will be of this type, an Orphic healing, according to Orphic and Aloysian mysteries. Because according to Orphic myths, man has a software, the etheric body, spoken with Rudolf Steiner, the information field, morphogenic field of the human body is musical, made of music and light. But every human individual has to find his own music. The big composers and rock bands, and they can serve only as an example of this search for the individual expression. Because you have to unite this sound with vibration as a healing power. That's why you have to play the instrument yourself, and have this interoperception, that is the perception from inside your body, what it does to your organs, how the vibration heals them. Lower on the very end of the pelvis. Maybe it's a kind of transformation of the sexual power into erotic power, music, vibration, and spatial visions. Last is the guitar on the root of the nose horizontally. Left hand supporting the belly of the guitar, right hand supporting the neck of the guitar with the thumb and the index finger hitting the strings. Edges, not edges, let us say, hips of the beautiful guitar goddess are sliding into the eye sockets, hitting the vibration, saturates completely the very thick eye nerve, optical nerve, which is behind the eyeball. You can close the eyes strongly, press the eyelids together so that you prevent injury of the eyeball. Facial grimaces accompany this kind of transformation of the warrior into a child of Zarathustra. Why do we say warrior? Because before this musical ecstasy we were exercising the body. Certainly you may have heard or may have seen performances like that were classified as madness. Madness like Eric Zahn. A fantasy story by H.P. Lovecraft. He was a romantic violinist stricken by an obsession to play in the night on the balcony of his high, the kind of fantasy town. On the balcony he played the violin to the stars and he disappeared. He was sucked in by the morphogenetic fields of the cosmic depths. And according to H.P. Lovecraft, who never left his house and has written 40,000 letters, and he was, obsessed by the yogurtu kukulutus mythology. Some sinister cosmic acidophilic yogurts have sucked in slimy and bubbling. Okay, whatever it was a fantasy of a kind of a lonely romantic mind of H.P. Lovecraft. It was definitely a diagnosis as romantic pessimism. A monstrous, horror, terrible, sound-smelling, dark fantasy must be created to shake the dying soul and the decadent body. We have a different approach. Beatles, Bee Gees, guitar heap. And Renaissance lute. And only if the beauty and the ecstasy is so deep that it takes the possibility in that the ego will be destroyed, which the ego immediately transforms into the imagination of the individual souls as the possibility of individual death. The ego, which is a kind of spark inimical to the soul field, creates all those cognitive operations that are transformation of the soul energy and is sucking away the life force that has this terrible Trojan horse technology, mental technology at disposal that it translates and transforms its own fear into the fear of physical death and the soul feeling of loneliness, meaninglessness, and so on. You have to die in the sense that you let the ego die and go through this bardo of its projections, that you are going to be alone, that you are going to have no money and no friends, and that you will, be unknown. This is the incarnation, this is the transformation of the child. You go through your individual land of the dead, because the ego produces all kinds of warnings and terrible images of how you are going to die in your soul, that is just the unknown and lonely and depressed, and in the body you shall have nothing to eat and no room, and it's the greatness of the European culture, of the great age of reason and romanticism, and our philosophy, the hell of the Greek, that we say yes, we accept this difficult transformation, and only we Europeans, the new Europeans, we can go through it, because our souls are so rich, so deep, so individual, so titanic, so mad, so loving, so vast, la 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 la, la, that we can go through these rich forests and valleys and clouds and seas and underwater labyrinths of our soul, paradoxically being fascinated by the beauty of it, that even the individual image of death does not stop us from this inquiry, from this, erotic fascination of the unknown. And then, strangely enough, it is in the very end of this melancholic loneliness, and yet at the same time a fascination for the beautiful unknown, that the child is born. The Zarathustra's child. Or in Heideggerian terms, slightly changed by my own interpretation, the supra-individual being, which I call happening, turns its face towards you and reveals to you the secrets of time, space, life, death, and so on. German word for the being, das Sein. I have supplanted with the word das Geschehen. Because our morphogenetic fields, our idea, our image of the soul of the planet, of the software of living matter, is a dynamic idea. The metaphysical realm is the realm of the constantly growing and intersecting and penetrating and merging and dividing morphogenetic field of the living matter, the soul of the Mother Earth. If my intuition is real, in the sense of it has an effect, then Mother Gaia is with me now. The soul of the planet is around me now. And the transformation of the Zarathustrian child is possible, or as John Lamblage has put it, the update of the epinoa of the creative imagination of Anthropos is happening, and he is the new man. Truly, our imagination, our epinoa, will get the new feature, new quality, new effect, that it will become one with the dreaming soul of the Sophia. So the software of the living earth will be, accepting, will be loving our images, our melodies, our emotional qualities of the bard's soul field. His creative imagination will be integrated into the huge, powerful soul of the planetary animal Earth.